Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, and our adventures near and far as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Don Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
So, Melanie, this week we have another house guest. Your mom has come for her visit, and it's been a long time.
It's been about 2.5 years since I've seen my mom, and it's really nice to see her.
Yes, you and the kids are ecstatic to have Grandma here, and it's been nice to have your mom around. It's been a while since we've seen her. Although I talk to her all the time on Secrets of Tech.
You probably talk to her more than I do, honestly.
Probably.
I'm not good at phone calls.
And it was kind of fun because it was her rotation on the Secrets of Technology panel this week. So she was in studio with me doing Secrets of Tech along with Jack Barzini, who was remote. So it was kind of fun doing it a little differently this week. So, but it's nice to have your mom here and doing stuff. We haven't done a lot of stuff with her though. We've basically done one thing so far, which we'll talk about in a second. But
yeah, we're not really a doing family. We're more of a being family.
Although when she's come to visit in the past, we've gone places. We've gone to like Mystic with her or the museums or...
I know, I was really hoping to get to the museum, but it's just, I don't know, it hasn't happened.
We've gotten out of, 2 years of pandemic, we've gotten out of the habit of going to museums and things.
Yes, that's really part of it, is
it's
hard to break that.
Yeah. To break out of the lethargy of not getting out. Yeah, it's true. It's true. We've got it takes some advanced planning for us to go. You know, it's going to be a day where I can get my work done and not be, so I can take a day off and we get the schoolwork done and not have appointments and all that sort of stuff.
And we did have, I had thought about going and doing something actually this Friday, but because we had a scout hike planned for Saturday morning, I sort of nixed that because doing two things that close together
back to back
is generally not a good idea for our kids.
Right. So several of their
kids need
kids.
recovery time.
Right. The introvert recovery. So yeah. So, but we'll get there. We are planning to at some point get back to the Museum of Fine Arts and get that going again. And I think maybe we should pick up a zoo membership. We haven't been to the zoo in a while.
You could do that.
It's going to spring it on you. So let's talk about places we actually have been. So last week we forgot to talk about some place we'd been, which was we went back to the Wallamontapoag Conservation Area.
Are you sure we didn't talk about that?
Yes, because at the end of last week's episode, after we had finished, I said, "Oh, we forgot to talk about was going to Wallamontapoag," and he's like, "Really? Oh, yeah, we did." So we did not talk about going, even though I used the little picture of the gnome from the.
I think that's why I thought we talked about it, because you used the picture.
No, I used the picture because I'd taken the picture. I'm like, oh, I want to use this as cover art. But I used it because we had talked about going camping. I went the scout camping. So anyway, we went to Wallamontapoag again, which, if you don't remember, is I just like saying it, but it's about an hour from our house, and it's a conservation area. So there's a beaver dam, beaver pond, with several beaver lodges in it, and when the beavers dam up the pond, it kills a lot of the trees that are standing there. And so you have these tall, dead tree trunks that are perfect nesting spots for lots of different kinds of birds, including, what was it?
Herons and osprey.
Herons and osprey, yeah.
And great horned owls.
Apparently. So that was one of the cool things is there were other birders there with scopes because people are more prepared than we are. And you guys got to look at the great horned owl.
Well, I don't know if I did.
Well,
I technically looked through the scope, but my eyes are so bad that I can't really claim to have actually seen the great horned owl. I just made appreciative noises and went, okay, I really couldn't make anything out. I didn't want to monopolize their scope long enough to like get my eyes to figure out what the heck was going on.
sure. But
I was trying to be polite.
But Bella got to see it, and she was very excited because she hadn't had a great horned owl on her bird life list, right?
Right. And Ben got to see it, and I think one of the other kids looked too.
Well, yeah, Lucy, because someone held her up to look through the scope.
Right.
I think it was Anthony or Ben was holding her up so she could look through. So yeah, that was good.
That was the highlight of the trip. Unfortunately, it was kind of a warm day. We should have actually gone the day before when it was cooler. And we had some people melting a little bit.
Yeah, that was a little complaining as we hiked through the woods, but it was fun. There was like I said, a couple of beaver lodges there. No, we didn't see the beavers. We saw lots of evidence of beavers, chewed up trees and stuff.
Right.
So Wallamattapoag is kind of fun. It was my first time going. You guys had been there before, so
we'd been there twice before.
Yeah, that was good. So this week you mentioned that we had a scout hike, and so we went back to Burridge Pond, which is a place that we discovered, and that's like 25 minutes from our house. No, that's close. So that's another conservation area, and it's a former cranberry bog, and it had been used it was originally the Great Cedar Swamp back in the 1700s, and it was used as a source of peat for fuel for a factory that was there. In fact, it was one of the largest dye factories in America in the early part of the 20th century before World War One. Little known fact.
Right.
That Cliff Clavin here. And so we'd been there before with my scout den, and then I told the other scout leaders, and so they planned to do a whole pack hike. And so it was the whole pack, as many as who came. And that was fun. It was warm. It was finally a warm weekend. Like we talked about the other one being warm, but like this was an actual summer feeling weekend that we had. And yeah, I mean, what did you think?
It was earlier in the day, so it was not actually as warm as the Wallamattapoag day.
That's true. Yeah, by late afternoon it was near 90 here, but it was
an early morning hike,
and it was breezy.
Yes.
So that was good too.
It was good. The kids found couple of the different scouts found turtles, which was cool. They found
couple varieties, yeah.
A couple different turtles. One I think might have been a wood turtle, though, which is a rare species.
Yeah.
Although I could be misidentifying it. It's probably like a box turtle, and I'm just like misidentifying it with my luck. And then another was a spotted turtle, which was really pretty. And that
small. Yeah.
They were both little turtles.
Plenty of birds. There was we saw goldfinches and red-winged blackbirds.
Lots of red-winged blackbirds.
Lots of those. And some either herons or swans. They were pretty far away, so it's hard to tell.
There was definitely some swans. There might have also been herons.
Okay. Then what else was the other ones? Oh, the swallows. We saw the tree swallows up close.
Yeah, the swallows were cool.
They were sitting on the bird boxes, and just sitting there waiting to be photographed or looked at. So that was fun. It's funny because Isabella and Sophia are BSA scouts now, so they're older than the Cub Scouts. But the scout leaders turn to Bella a lot for bird identification, and she's sort of the bird expert.
She is the bird expert.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
She's actually taken ornithology classes and birding merit badge. So she has some formal training, but then she's also just been a lifelong bird lover.
Yeah.
Since the first time I stuck up a bird feeder on the window when she was a toddler.
Remember, she was like 2 years old. This is when we were living in Peabody, and the window was very low to the floor. Like it was an old house. On the old houses, the windows are low, and so she would stand with her toes on the edge of the baseboard and peer out the window, and the bird feeder was right there in front of her face, and so the birds would be right there. It's just funny, the things you do that you don't think about that, change the course of your kid's life, the interest that they have. That's kind of funny. So, yeah, it was a good hike. The weather was good. I'm sorry your mom kind of she couldn't make the whole way because she started getting pain in her leg. So she went back to the car, and we end up sending Oh, that's what it was. We split into two groups, and so Ben and Lucy were with the first group that got back early. That's why they were with your mom.
Right.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that was a good outing. A couple hours.
And then afterwards, on the way home, because it was starting to get warm, we stopped for ice cream.
So this is a funny thing. As I was saying, this is how I and we are different from my parents. I'm not going to, make a judgment on your parents. My parents would never stop for ice cream before lunch. Like it was like 11:30. We hadn't had lunch yet. My mom would never condone the idea of eating ice cream before you've had your lunch because you'll ruin your lunch. And it's like I'm so much the cooler parent than my mom was. I mean, not to say my mom was, wasn't a good parent. That's not true. She did lots of stuff for us that lots of kids didn't get to do. But like in this case, the ice cream before lunch was, and it didn't ruin their lunch. They actually all ate lunch. So
yes, they did.
Yeah. So
it was really good ice cream too.
Peaceful Meadows in Bridgewater. I think it's Bridgewater.
Peaceful Meadows just sounds like it should be
either an ice cream place,
a funeral home. It doesn't sound to me like an ice cream place.
It should be like a funeral home or elderly home, elder care home, like a nursing home. Yeah, something like that. It's funny. Speaking of things my mom wouldn't let me eat when I was a kid. I've started this new thing, which I'm sure you've noticed, where I've decided I'm in my mid-50s. I'm old enough to decide that I can eat sugary cereal. I've decided that I'm going to start trying all the sugary cereals I never really got to eat as a kid as a treat. Not like I'm not going to eat this every day for breakfast, but like on a Saturday or a Sunday, I'm going to get out the Captain Crunch, or I'm going to buy a small box of whatever and try that. And I'm just going to go through all the sugary cereals that I never got to eat as a kid.
I do not understand this at all. I have no desire to eat. That's just yuck.
Yeah, Captain Crunch regular is good. Captain Crunch with Crunch Berries, I'm not sure I'm a fan of the Crunch Berries. And frankly, I don't think I'm going to try the Oops, It's All Crunch Berries version because that just sounds unpalatable to me. But I have a feeling Cocoa Puffs are in my future.
I was the kid who, when I went on sleepovers and all they had was sugary cereals, was like miserable because I didn't have my familiar Cheerios or Life cereal. And
Life cereal, I like Life cereal. I'd buy that.
Yummy.
Yeah, I'd buy that and eat that.
I branched out as far as Rice Krispies in college.
Branching out, you rebel, you wild child.
I actually had no idea that Rice Krispies by themselves weren't really sweet until I was in college, and then I tried them and I was like, oh wait, these are actually good because they're not sweet.
You wild kid. They snap, crackle, and pop. How dare you? That's offensive.
We did not have sugar cereals when I was a kid.
Neither did I. But
you evidently liked them when you tried them.
Oh, Anthony comes by his FOMO, honestly. Let's be clear here. I'm a prime candidate.
I thought you said your mom would occasionally splurge and buy them.
Yes, and then John and Bernie would eat them. I might get like one bowl out of a whole box.
Okay, but see, we literally never had. You sort of rarely had. We never ever had.
There are plenty of them that I never had. Like I've never had Cocoa Puffs, or I'm trying to think of the other ones that I see in the aisle. Like if we got it, it was either Fruit Loops or Coke or Captain Crunch. And when I say like occasionally, like maybe twice ever, she like got these. Like that's what I mean. So like Bear's Taste, or we'd be over a friend's house sleeping over and they would have it, or I remember having Kicks at my
okay, my mom
neighbors.
actually got Kicks occasionally from my younger siblings, but I never ate them.
Kicks is never really, it's not like a sugar cereal. I mean,
No.
it's not like super sweet like the other
If my
ones.
mom bought it, it's not a sugar cereal because
My mom would buy the off-brand cereal in the bags, like the pseudo wheat not wheat thins. What's the
shredded wheat?
Shredded wheat. She would buy like the off-brand shredded wheat and off-brand Cheerios stuff, and it was like, oh, it was usually stale. Or like Wheat Tina. Oh my gosh, it's the worst hot cereal ever.
We generally were Cheerios.
Did you have oatmeal? Like Wheat Tina is a kind of an oatmeal thing.
My brothers really liked the Quaker like instant oat packets.
Oh yeah, but the apple and cinnamon, yes.
I was not really a big fan, but they used to eat those for breakfast, like 2 packets in a bowl.
When we were first married, I used to eat that for breakfast every day until I looked at what the ingredients were. And it was basically
sugar, and more
sugar, and more sugar. I thought it was like, oatmeal. I've since become a wiser consumer, but
I didn't really start eating oatmeal until I was an adult, and then I ate like Quaker rolled oats.
I know,
like real oatmeal.
You're a boring eater.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a sweet tooth, but sweet cereals just don't really do it for me.
Wheat Tina and cream of wheat are the worst cereals ever. Like they're not. It's a prank. Someone's pranking us. Like no one likes it. It is gritty. It's like pour like some warm milk over sand. It is so gross. I'm sorry. If you like, Wheat Tina or cream of wheat, power to you. But I think
my mom likes cream of wheat.
Cream of wheat might be slightly better, but Wheat Tina was like rocks. It was like gritty. And like the only way you could consume it was with copious amounts of sugar or maple syrup or something, which I'm like, you might as well just give me the Captain Crunch at that point. But anyway. That is far afield of what we were going to talk about. Anyway, let's talk about other food that's actually not bad for us, which is you've made a couple of really good salads this week. You made a German potato salad,
which is one of my favorites. It's so yummy. Yeah. I love potato salad.
So
I do not like potato salad. Yes. I grew up in Texas where if you get barbecue takeout, there are 2 sides that come with barbecue takeout. Well, 3. There's barbecue beans.
Yep.
There's potato salad and there's coleslaw.
And a particular kind of potato salad.
Well, there's different barbecue places have different kinds of potato salad.
Okay, I see.
But I did not eat either potato salad or coleslaw as a child. So this week's 2 picks are ironic because these are 2 dishes that I would never have eaten as a child.
Okay.
Ever.
Okay. So I like potato salad, but I like the supermarket potato salad, the deli potato salad, which is like
so gross.
Right.
So wrong.
It's so sweet and yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah. You like German potato salad. It has mustard in it.
I did not think I liked potato salad until I had roommates who made this German potato salad. I had a roommate in grad school who was from Germany. Like German passport.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sabina.
That's what from Germany means. Yes.
I know. Anyway. like not even.
She's not like German background. She's like literally a German person.
Exactly. And I don't think I ever had her potato salad, but one of the other like she moved out pretty quickly, I think within like 6 months of me moving in. But the other roommates had learned her parents' recipe for potato salad. And it was like big chunks of red potatoes and bacon, and there was no mayonnaise to be seen anywhere. It was just vinegar and mustard dressing and oil.
Yeah.
And so I decided I liked that. And I don't think I got the recipe from them, but I later found a recipe that was close.
Not my favorite kind of potato salad, but it's okay.
It's so good.
But the one you made this week, one of the things that made it different was it, instead of using big chunks of potato, we slice the potato. Like you cut the red potato in half, and then you're in like 1/4-inch slices. I think that makes a huge difference to
this was like to
the texture.
Cook's Country recipe, I think, that I saw online, and I thought I'd try, and I got as far as the whole slicing thing. And then I realized that it didn't have half of what I wanted in a potato salad, which was it cut out the sauteed onions and the bacon.
This Cook's Country has the bacon and the onion. So maybe it was the other one you were looking at.
It was one that was not clipped into our recipe.
Oh, okay.
You clipped the wrong one.
I didn't clip this, but anyway.
Anyway.
This was already in there. But in any case.
Anyways, so I ended up doing a weird hybrid where I was trying to follow 2 different recipes frantically. because the one that I wanted to use the technique from didn't have half the ingredients. So what I ended up doing was sort of a Franken recipe thing on the fly, and I don't exactly remember what I did.
But so the slicing was good.
I ended up putting in the sugar twice, essentially.
Right. Because you were following two different recipes, which added the sugar two different times.
Right. Which is why you liked it, because it had twice as much sugar.
Because it was as sweet as supermarket's potato salad, right?
Or sugar cereals.
I think you're detecting a theme in today's discussion.
I think so. You and your...
I have a very sweet tooth for that sort of thing. But I like the cucumbers in it.
Okay, that was the weird thing, that I wasn't sure I would like the cucumbers in it. So I left them on the side. And then they turned out to actually be good. So next time I'm going to put the cucumbers in. Yeah,
you make a sort of a quick pickle of like sugar, cucumber, vinegar, and salt. Leaving out the dill, because neither of us like dill.
This is where the sugar came in twice. Yeah. Because this is one of the instances of the sugar was in the cucumbers. And then I was like, I'm not sure I want to use that. So I drained off the liquid and put it in a potato salad and left the cucumbers behind.
Okay.
Don't ask me why.
Sometimes... I don't know. But it was really good with the cucumbers. I really like that.
They added a really nice crunch.
Yeah. And the brightness, like, because it's a cucumber. It's a cucumber is like water. It's not watery, but it's a fresh flavor.
Yeah. It was good.
Yeah, I definitely like it. Then the other thing you made was the Asian slaw.
Yes.
Asian slaw with peanuts.
We were having like a
negihama.
Right.
I made it's the steak roll up with around scallions.
So I said, if we're gonna have negihama, I want something that's like a green vegetable that's crunchy, slaw like.
Not negihama, negimaki. Negihama is fish. Now that I think about it, but sorry, go ahead. Slaw.
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
Okay. Anyway. Yes, I made a crunchy Asian slaw, and I decided I wanted something with a peanutty profile. I don't even know why I was in the mood for peanuts, I guess. And I found a recipe online, and then partway through, as I was making it, I decided it didn't quite taste like what I really was in the mood for. So I ended up adding back some of the mayonnaise, like trying to get back to my classic slaw recipe, and it
ended up really good.
It came out okay.
Yeah.
I would probably not do it exactly the same way again, because again, I was mixing and matching on the fly.
The one that you started with, this Asian slaw with ginger peanut dressing from Once Upon a Chef, the dressing, it's got peanut butter, sriracha, soy sauce, sesame oil, honey, oil, rice vinegar, garlic, ginger, and I don't know if that's sugar or salt. It's probably salt.
I am pretty sure that I skipped the sriracha and instead used Thai chili garlic sauce.
Okay.
And I skipped the honey and used brown sugar.
Okay.
And I skipped the coleslaw mix, so I just had like plain green cabbage instead of the fancy like green and red cabbage, which I like. But we never have it on hand, because having two cabbages in the fridge is just...
Right, or having slaw mix on hand. Yeah.
I like having an actual cabbage on hand, because it gives me more freedom to decide. I could cook the cabbage and make like a cooked cabbage dish, which I did one day this week. I made my cabbage and onions that I love. Or I could make a slaw out of it, depending on like what I'm cooking and what I'm in the mood for. Whereas if you have the bag of coleslaw, it's nice and handy, and I really like the mix, but it limits you can't really cook it in the same way.
Right.
Or you could, I guess.
You made a cooked slaw too, like a cooked cabbage that was really good.
That's what I was saying.
The onion and cabbage.
Yeah, I love that one. You just you saute your onions until they're getting really brown, and then you add the cabbage on top, and you cook it until the cabbage is getting brown. And so you have like, basically you've caramelized your onions and your cabbage. And then you add a pinch of sugar, some salt, and like the juice of one lemon. So it's really lemony and bright, and it's got a little bit of sweetness from the sugar. And Oh, it's and the caramelized onions. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's really good. I like that the slaw in this recipe had edamame. That would be good in it.
That would have been good.
Yeah.
If we'd had edamame, I would totally have thrown them in.
It's sort of thing we should keep a bag of frozen edamame in the freezer.
We had one at one point, but it was in there for like 2 years and
we never used it.
And then never got used.
But I like the idea of just keeping like a pantry of things, just stuff that you can use to make various things with it and just have it available. And I mean, sometimes it kind of get like that. It gets lost and you never use it, but we need to do a better job of like looking through the freezer at times and saying, oh, there's this and that and this, just having things on hand. Gives you flexibility.
I have a friend who every 6 weeks, not every 6 weeks, every 6 months or so does we're not buying new stuff. We're just eating from the freezer just to kind of clear it out and like discover all the things that have got in there and been forgotten.
You could take a week and just eat from the freezer, like just, and that would be sufficient. Like there's lots of meats we have in the freezer. Like I sometimes will buy stuff on sale and there's like several weeks worth of meat for dinners in there. Like I wouldn't have to buy, so it's the defrosting that is always the problem. So you have to plan ahead. You have to think, what are we going to have tomorrow night for dinner? Let me get that out now. Or what are we going to have tomorrow in 2 days for dinner and get that into the fridge now. So
I'm not good at planning ahead.
Yeah, that's one area we struggle with. Okay. Moving on from food. Let's talk about what we've been reading and watching. You finished watching Shetland season 6. I
did, and it ended on a total cliffhanger. And now I'm like, okay, season 7 can't come soon enough.
How long for that?
I'm pretty sure that season 6 aired last fall, so it's probably going to be a while.
Okay.
Given that it's BBC,
right? They don't do like annual. They just they whenever it comes out is when it comes out.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Somebody in our audience might be watching it or wanting to watch it, so I don't want to spoil it. But
okay, how many episodes was it?
I want to say it was pretty short. I think it was 6 episodes.
So Shetland, remind me what Shetland is about.
Okay, so Shetland is a detective story. It's set in the Shetland Islands, which is, if you don't know, they're north of Scotland.
So pretty far up there.
Yeah. And so everyone talks with the Scottish accent, and the legal system is Scottish as opposed to English, which is kind of different, as I've learned from watching Shetland. They actually have a different legal system than England does,
which is different from ours.
Which is also different from ours.
Yeah.
But in Scotland, there's very confusing. There's a person who seems to act kind of like a DA because they're involved in actually prosecuting, but also deciding what crimes get investigated.
Yeah.
And their title is they're the fiscal. And I'm like, fiscal really threw me off for a while because it sounds like somebody who's dealing with money. So why are they making decisions about like what gets prosecuted?
Right.
But the fiscal is much more like, I think basically functionally they're a DA.
Okay. District attorney. Right. Okay.
Anyway, I really like Shetland's cast of characters. The detective is great. His name is Jimmy Perez. And he's a single dad. Actually, at this point, his daughter's in college and grown up and left the islands. He grew up in Fair Isle.
Yeah.
Which I only know because there's a particular kind of sweater, which is the Fair Isle sweater. And I'm like, oh, Fair Isle is actually a place, and the sweater comes from that place. Interesting. Like knit wool sweaters.
Right.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, yeah, that's like, I like British cop shows too. Like whether it's, I was talking to your mom about some of them that I watched on BritBox, and it's like, Grace starring, John Sim, who Doctor Who fans might know as the master from the David Tennant time. That was a really good, it was like the first season was 2 episodes. It was really good.
The first few seasons of Shetland were 1 or 2 episodes each. They were based on books. At this point, the shows are no longer based on the books. They've gone past the books. The mystery writer only wrote a couple of books, but they've continued the characters.
Cool. Yeah. So that's cool. I'm waiting for Grace season 2 to hit BritBox because it's on ITV now. And I guess is a delay before it hits BritBox, which is annoying.
What's ITV?
That is BBC is the government public broadcaster. ITV is a private broadcaster.
Okay, so it's
a commercial broadcaster.
A British commercial broadcaster.
Yes. So I watched Jaws for the Secrets of Movies and TV Shows, and that was a very fun discussion that I had with Mike Denz and Thomas Salerno, and you'll get to hear our discussion of that in a couple weeks, around Memorial Day, I think is when it's due to come out. But watching Jaws again is a lot of fun. It's that movie that a whole generation has been ruined for deep water.
No kidding.
We all hate swimming in deep water because we all picture the sharks. Dun, yes, the whole.
Oh,
no. No.
I was scared to go in the deep end of the swimming pool.
Yes, same here. Oh my gosh.
It doesn't even make sense. Like, you can see the bottom. Why were we scared? I don't know. It was scary. There might be sharks.
Right. You can see the bottom.
But yeah. Kids would like tease each other. Well, like, there's sharks down there. Well, I saw one.
You probably didn't watch it, but I watched Thunderball, which was a James Bond movie with, Sean Connery, where there were sharks in the pool. Like, the bad guy had a thing where he could close this covering over the pool and trap you underneath, and then he would release sharks into the pool. I don't doubt that kids in my class had seen that, and that was probably the origin of, like, some of my fears was... Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny how many of my childhood fears came not from shows that I watched, but from shows that classmates watched and then told me about. Yeah. So... sort of secondhand fears. Right. Because people let their kids watch all kinds of things. Oh, yeah. Horror movies and stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember being told about, like, Amityville Horror and Friday the 13th. I never saw any of those. And oh my gosh. But I would hear them in detail from my classmates. Yeah. So Jaws, lots of fun. I mean, obviously it's a shark. It eats people, but it's not as gory as, like, a modern version of it would be. It's Steven Spielberg. The pacing is amazing. The characters are fantastic. The cast is Robert Shaw as Quint. You got Hooper is Richard Dreyfuss. Brody is played by Roy Scheider. I mean, it's such a great cast. It's such a good movie. The characters, the whole thing, like, we're gonna need a bigger boat is a thing that people say when something unexpected. We didn't plan for this. It's bigger than we planned for. That comes from Jaws or like the John Williams thing. Dun, 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 dun. That whole thing is, it's just awesome. Anyway, so today we finished watching the first only season of WandaVision. So when we finished last week, we had watched the first 4 episodes. Right. And for some reason you and I thought WandaVision was 6 episodes. I think I thought it because you said so. Okay. I thought it was 6 episodes. We only had 2. I'm just blaming you. 2 more to go. Right. Under the bus. And so we get to it. It's like, oh no, there's 5 more episodes to go. We're like, oh, I guess we're not finishing that this week. Well, we did. Anyway. We did. Because every time we'd land on the cliffhanger, the kids would be like, oh my gosh, we can't stop there. So yeah. And I kind of wanted to keep watching. I didn't want to stop either. Watching it all in one go this time, like you and I watched it as it came out. No, you watched it as it came out. I watched it all in one go. Oh, did you? Okay. Okay, I guess I forgot that we watched Loki together. Did we watch Falcon and Winter Soldier together? I don't think so. We watched Loki together. We watched Loki together. Okay. That's it. So watching it all in one go, quote unquote. So basically in 2 batches, as opposed to week to week to week, was a different experience, especially as the revelations come and it flows and you don't forget things. Like, I forget what happened last week when I watched it. But see, I almost felt like I kind of missed out because a lot of my friends said they had started to figure things out or speculate on things. People would talk. Because there was time to think between episodes, whereas I didn't really have time to, like, ponder and think, like, what is this character doing? Why is this character even here? Those sorts of questions. Right. When you're just binge watching it
from episode to episode, you just kind of take those things in stride without really pondering them.
The recasting thing caused tons of speculation, and we didn't get, you don't get a resolution of that, why that is that way, for like 3 or 4 episodes after that. But, we got it all in one day, but, today, but in the, when I first watched it, people had to speculate for weeks. Why is this situation? We're trying to avoid spoilers here. But in any case,
so I think there are things to be said
mm-hmm.
for watching it all in one go, but there's also something to be said for letting the story develop over time, giving yourself time to ponder it. I mean, this is sort of the homeschooling, the Charlotte Mason method, is to read a book slowly.
Right.
Like, a chapter a week, so that you have time to really sit and think and have it soak in.
It's the difference between the Netflix model, which drops a whole season at once, versus the Disney Plus or the Paramount Plus model, where you get one per week. And honestly, I kind of like it. Like when Stranger Things drops next month, the final season, it'll drop the entire season at once. And then there are going to be people who watch it all in one go or watch it in 2 days. And I'm like, I don't have time to watch it all that fast. And then you kind of stuck. Like, they're done. They want to talking about it. I don't want to talk about it. It just becomes, and then you miss the conversation. Like, you finish it a month later, everybody else is done talking about it.
Well, see, that was my entire experience of the MCU to begin with.
Because you went back.
I missed the entire conversation the first time through.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, who's going to talk to me about these movies that I'm watching now? But I think that there are some benefits to watching it
all in one go.
And of course, even if you do watch it like one at a time, you can go back and rewatch them all again, like more compactly, like you're doing now.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be either or.
Right. But even, like, I'm thinking more of like how the best way to watch them the first time.
I think probably it would be best to watch it the first time, one episode at a time, and then go back later and watch them all bunched together and see what you missed. If
it's the sort of thing that's worth watching again, yeah.
Right.
There's lots of stuff out there that I'm not going to watch again.
No, but for something like the MCU stuff.
Yeah. But even like shows, like I'm watching Longmire, and I try not to watch there are times I'll watch 2 episodes in a night, but I try to like 1 episode a week, and just like maybe 2 if it's a slow week and it's nothing else to watch. But I don't want to watch it too fast, because like you said, you need to kind of let it sit and percolate a little bit in your.
There's something to be said for letting the story kind of sit for a while. I think you get more out of it when you've got time to kind of think about it, like in the back of your head, and talk about it with other people.
Right.
But even if you're just reading it or watching it yourself, there's something to be said for that kind of slow story.
Yes.
Progression, development.
Anyway, I think the kids liked it. WandaVision was kind of intense. There was kind of scary parts, there and intense peril. There was Wanda's grief, I think, was very affecting to Bella, especially.
Yeah, Bella and I had a really nice conversation this afternoon, like sitting around chatting about it, like discussing it. It was good. She's fun to talk about. Unfortunately, she kind of wants to have a one-on-one, and the other kids kind of sometimes want to jump in and make it into I don't know quite how to negotiate that, because I want to respect her teenage desire to have one-on-one time with me. On the other hand, like,
you have a lot of demands on your time.
Yes, lots of people want to talk to me about things, and I think it's good for the younger kids to hear some of these conversations, because I think they get more out of it, and they learn how to watch and to think about what they're watching from hearing us talk.
Right. Sometimes they need to be quiet more than they're speaking. Listen more than speak.
I mean, sometimes they have good insights.
No, but some of them need to listen more than speak. A few in particular. Anyway, so that's what we watched. Reading, I'm having trouble getting through this last book of the Expanse series. It's just not compelling to like. I'm reading it every day, but not a lot, and it just doesn't. I just don't feel drawn to it. I'm finishing it out of a completionist sort of obligation,
right?
But I'm not enjoying it as much as I did the early books. The early ones are full of action and interesting situations, and there's lots going on. This one is much more cerebral, and then it's got these sort of moments where they're sort of in a very alien environment, and so it's really weird, abstract sort of. It's almost like the written version of the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey at times.
Oh, I can't stand that.
Yeah, so
that kind of too abstract, and I lose my sense of reality in a story.
Yeah, it's these abstract, weird experiences things, and I'm like, it's getting very like hard sci-fi. So I'm struggling through it. I'm like 80% done, so I'm close, but hopefully next week I'll be working on a new book. How about you though? What are you?
So I finished the Diane Duane To Visit the Queen.
Yep.
Which was good. And then I actually fell prey to a Facebook ad for a book, which is very rare. But I really, last year, I think it was, I really enjoyed Laurus by Eugene Vodolazkin, which was the historical novel set in medieval Russia. And Facebook was advertising his newest book. And this one is actually about a musician who gets Parkinson's disease, and then hires a writer to write his biography for him. And so it's kind of about his experience of music and being a musician and this whole interior process. The main character has his dad's Ukrainian and his mom's Russian, and evidently the novel is actually written part in Ukrainian and part Russian. So there are places where it says everything that's in italics is actually in the original, not in Russian, but in another language.
Interesting.
So it felt kind of timely, like a book set in Ukraine. And I downloaded the teaser free Kindle sample, and I really didn't want to put it down. So I think I'm going to end up buying it and reading the whole thing. It's called Brisbane, which is a very weird title for a Russian novel.
Yeah.
That was actually explained in the spoiler. Evidently the main character's mother thinks that she would like to live in Brisbane, Australia. And when he asks why, it's just because she likes the sound of the word. It's a beautiful sounding word, and it just makes her want to. It must be a beautiful place.
Okay.
And then, of course, it's communist Russia, so she's not able to actually leave to go visit, because when she applies, she's not a member of the Communist Party, and when she applies to go visit, she's asked if she has seen all of the beautiful things that Russia has to offer. And that's pretty much like, there's no way you could possibly have seen all of the beautiful things that Russia has to offer. So basically that's their way of saying, nope, sorry, no, you don't get to leave the country.
Very Russian, Soviet, very, very Soviet.
But it's kind of, I mean, it's interesting. Evidently he's a really, really, really big, famous musician at the beginning of the novel, because everywhere he goes, people are falling all over him, asking for his autograph. And like, he's getting the complimentary champagne and fruit in his hotels and everything. But then he like goes back to the place where his childhood apartment was, and it's been turned into a hotel.
Oh, weird.
And I think it was raised and a hotel was put in. Anyway, lots of fun modern life in Russia, but with sort of a looking back towards the communist era.
I mean, it's got to be weird, like that transition from the Soviet era to today.
Yeah, and I don't know. and it starts with him on an airplane talking to this writer guy, and the writer says, maybe I could write your biography. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And he takes his card, but then he kind of thinks about it and finally decides to look him up. So there's this kind of interesting interplay between the writer and the musician that I think is going to be fun as the novel develops.
Cool. All right. So that's what we've been reading and watching. Let's talk about Mass, this week's Mass. And specifically, our parish, it was
First Communion
weekend, which I guess we knew that this weekend was First Communion, but I didn't know that our regular Mass would be First Communion.
Right, because last weekend they gave all the kids the cross and
Yeah, we talked about that last time about how they all got a cross and a blessing. But this was the First Communion Mass, and my first clue was when we pulled to the parking lot, and the parking lot was full.
We were 10 minutes early and the parking lot was packed.
Yeah. That's always a sign of something's up. So I got to say, our pastor, Father Matt, home run of a homily.
So good.
Really good. I mean, I'm always raving about his homilies. They're always really good. But he hit some really good points. Definitely things you want to get in a homily with kids. And he didn't talk down to the kids, but he talked in a way that was accessible to them.
Yeah, that's such a hard note to hit, and so many people
especially when you're not a parent,
miss it. Yes. Yeah. Right. For parents, even it can be difficult, but a lot of non-parents really have a tendency to talk down to kids.
Right. So a couple of the points he made. First, he started off by emphasizing how important today was for them. That after their birthday, the day they were born, this is the most important day, which I would have said baptism in there, but I think he was just trying to make a point.
Right.
Baptism is probably up there as well, but
rhetorically that would have muddied the water. So
yeah.
it was focused,
and he was humorous with the kids. Like, your baptism day, your birthday was such an important day. You remember that, right? Like, no, yeah, I'm gonna guess that nobody here remembers the day they were born, but your parents do. But you should remember today. And
I liked that he said he did not remember anything of his own First Communion day except getting in trouble for talking.
Yes, that was good.
And that got a lot of laughs. And then he said, but I want you to try to find something that you will remember.
Something joyful,
beautiful, good, joyful, profound.
Whether it's the music or the beautiful white dress or white suit that you're wearing, or he wasn't saying it has to be something theological, but hold on to something from today that you will remember, that will impact you. And then he says, celebrate today every year, and put this on your calendar and remember it every year. This was the date of my First Communion, and you're going to have thousands of future communions, but today is your first one, and that's a big deal. And he talked about that.
I liked that he made it a big deal in a ways that were concrete.
Mm-hmm.
Because kids are very concrete thinkers, and you could tell them, go on for a long time about how important it is, but he made it concrete, putting it on your calendar, fixing a memory in your head, and starting off with a humorous one, and then contrasting it with something more hopeful. But he was very good at making things very concrete.
Also, he won my heart when he made a Star Wars reference.
Yes, that was especially good.
Yes, in the first movie he talked about, I can't remember the number. I'm waiting for my kids to all yell 3, 4. 4 is actually fourth. A New Hope. When Luke is learning how to use the Force, and he has this one little thing that he does, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was very old at the time, probably in his late 50s, which was funny, tells Luke, you've taken the first step into a larger world. And that's what it's like for you today. And he made that connection. You've taken the first step into a larger world by receiving your First Communion. It's a whole new world for you.
He did something that was rhetorically really nice there too, because he asked all the kids how they got to Mass today.
Yes.
And did you drive?
Well, he says, what he asked them was, what kind of car do you have?
That's true.
Yeah. The first kid, what kind of car do you have? And the kid named a car. He's like, you have You have a car? You're driving? like not what car your parents have. What car do you have? And he's like, if you're driving, now I understand why all the traffic in Brockton is the way it is. If all the kids are driving. But he was making the point like the kids can't drive themselves to church.
So this is their first communion. If it's not going to be their last communion for a long time, they have to get to church. But he did it in a way like that involved humor, like getting everybody to laugh.
And not making it a accusation.
Right. Not an accusation, but saying, it's hard for kids to get here.
And they have a right to be here. And so when your child starts to bug you about it, consider saying yes. It'll be good for them. It'll be good for you. And it's good for your family to come to church.
Right. And he didn't do it in a way that was scolding or lecturing. He
was encouraging.
Encouragement and humor. I really liked the way he used humor. And the way he involved the kids, asking all the kids what kinds of cars their families had and making a joke of the kid who about whether he drove himself. It was engaging. It was humor used not in a look at me, I'm telling a funny story way, but humor used didactically, which
right.
A lot of priests open their homilies with a funny anecdote and then they leave the anecdote there and it has nothing to do with the rest of the homily.
Because someone told them to always open up with a joke.
Right. Whereas Father Matt was using humor to make a point. Like it was very well done. And you didn't realize until afterwards that he was actually making a point with it.
And the fact that Father Matt is a Marine, that's, I think the thing that is disarming about him is that he's not, I don't know. He's young-ish. He's, in his 40s. He's young-ish. He looks like a Marine. So it's sort of disarming, I think. He's not like an old elderly man who's the kids don't feel a connection to. So I think that has an element of it. Another thing he mentioned was he talked about how when we eat food, like he asked them what their favorite food is.
This.
Do you like hamburgers? Is this the group that likes Brussels sprouts and broccoli most? No. I thought that was you guys. Oh, that must have been last week. What do you guys like? Pizza, cheeseburgers? Okay. When you eat a cheeseburger, what happens to it? It becomes part of you, right? That cheeseburger becomes muscle and bone and other parts of your body. But when you receive the Eucharist is different because it makes you into more like Jesus. It transforms you. So instead of transforming the food into you, the Eucharist transforms you into being more like Jesus. He could have, if it were an adult crowd, he could have said it makes you Jesus. And then we could explain why that's not literally true, but we become the part of the body of Christ. But I think he did a good job of explaining that. Like the food that this is special food because it's spiritual. It's food that feeds us both physically and spiritually. Regular food just feeds our body, but the Eucharist feeds our body and soul.
Right.
So I think that was really good.
And that's one of my favorite points. I remember hearing a lecture or homily where it talked about like that, where we become not what we consume becomes us, but where we become what we consume.
Yeah.
Which is a much more sophisticated way of saying it. But wow, that blew me away the first time I heard it. And it's really nice to see somebody making that point to kids. Like that's a point they can understand on their level.
Right.
And it's beautiful and it's true.
So can I say one thing I didn't like? Just one thing.
One thing, I suppose.
It's the song they have the kids sing at the end of Mass.
Yeah.
It's kind of hokey. Like, so at the end of Mass, after the announcements, before the final blessing, they have all the kids come up and they have them sing a song. I could hardly hear it because they're little kids singing a song and they're doing hand motions. And the whole point of it is to please the parents with a photo moment, a moment you can take for a video or a photo. That's all it is. The kids don't want to do it. Like this doesn't add anything to their understanding of the Eucharist. It's not. It's for the crowd. It's just to please the crowd, and I don't think that sort of thing has a place in the Mass. Do it after Mass. Do it on the front steps of the church after Mass. Or at the sanctuary after Mass. But I just don't think it belongs in Mass. But that's my curmudgeonly moment for the. Everything else was really great.
It's not my favorite.
Yeah. Also, well, the kids actually did a pretty good job reading the intentions, but when you have kids who you're going to have them read, they had an adult lector read the readings, which I think is appropriate for First Communion. But if you're going to have kids reading, you got to make sure they can read and be understood. That's a big.
I actually thought they did a nice job where they had the kids read a few of the intentions, but then they had the adult lector come in and read.
Right.
Especially like the ones where like this mass is being offered for the intentions of the repose of so-and-so's soul.
Yeah.
Don't try to make the kids sound those names out.
No, you can't get that wrong. Trust me, I've learned the hard way that you got to get the mass intentions right, or they'll be held to pay from the people who think that if you don't do the mass intentions right, their loved one is not going to heaven. But and I wasn't saying that there was anything wrong with it. They actually did a good job. They had the kids sounded fine and they did a good job. So I had no concerns with that. So yeah, it was a beautiful mass. Warm. It's time for me to switch to my summertime mass clothes. Most of the year I wear my suit, but in the summer, because the church is air conditioned, I wear a polo and and khakis for mass because it's just too hot otherwise. And even then, sometimes, when it gets really hot. All right, let's wrap things up there. We want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including Brock R., Nathan S., Joseph H., Jeff H., and Tom B. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Raising the Bets and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. You can find links from our discussion in our show notes at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS. You can send us your feedback at the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to bets@sqpn.com or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. It's DISCORD. Until next time, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
No, Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest.